People have wondered about the meaning of dreams for thousands of years. They sought answers from the brightest minds of their time. People like oracles, prophets, seers and scholars have usually been the go-to guys for dream interpretation. All these experts shared a common idea that dreams carry a meaning beyond their literal content. This idea is the foundation of all dream interpretation methods. For 4,000 years of recorded history, humanity has developed numerous approaches to discovering the meaning of dreams. Various cultures across 6 continents have all developed their own methods and techniques to harness the power of nightly dreams. However, despite their vast differences, despite their distance in time and space, they have all used 3 basic dream interpretation principles. These principles tell us a great deal about the nature of dreams. Moreover, they are a common ground for all scholars of dreams despite their backgrounds. To truly appreciate these principles, I'd like to first tell you how different dream interpretation has been across the world. Now, before I continue with a historical overview of various dreaming traditions, please take a moment to subscribe to the Dreamer's Guide channel. You will learn a great deal about nightly dreams and how to improve your dreaming experience. Moreover, if you click on the bell icon, you will get notifications for all the new videos the moment I publish them. Dreams have been interpreted since the dawn of time, and there are many methods of deciphering their message. Ancient societies believed them to be a way of communicating with spirits and gods. The oldest recorded dream interpretation dates back 4,000 years to the Epic of Gilgamesh. The text describes numerous dreams of the Akkadian demigod and his friend Enkidu. Naturally, they foretell the future. The epic also contains a depiction of a dream ritual performed by Gilgamesh and Enkidu. The ritual was divinatory in nature, and it provided insight for the heroes on how to approach their clash with the giant Humbaba. Thanks to this ancient text, we know dream interpretation existed 4,000 years ago. Moreover, dreams were viewed as signs and portents of future events. Some scholars argue the dreams in the epic were used as a mere plot device to foreshadow future events. Others, however, remind them that art imitates life, and prophetic dreams have been a common phenomenon since times immemorable. Now let's journey a few thousand years to more recent times. The oldest surviving dream interpretation book dates back to the 2nd century AD. Oneirocritica was written by Artemidorus of Daudis. He was a professional diviner and master oneiromancer. This is the profession of divining the future through dreams. Artemidorus wrote Oneirocritica by consulting with numerous diviners across Greece, Italy, and Asia. In addition, he cites several other books and authors as his sources. Thus, we know that oneiromancy was a field with its own experts and publications. Furthermore, Oneirocritica is a very detailed and systematic dream interpretation book. We can see that the people in the classical age dreamt about the very same things that we dream of today, apart from a few purely technological and cultural aspects. For example, they used crows instead of books. Also, they had many gods, each with its own domain. Last but not least, slavery was a common thing back then. However, the interpretation of symbols is where our words are quite different. Death held a central place in the world of Artemidorus. A startling amount of symbols predict death with a peculiar particularity and accuracy. It seems people were concerned with not only who would die, but when, how, and why. While the symbols tell us more about the outer world of the classical age, their interpretations speak purely about the people and their inner world. In that latter sense, differences are more noticeable and striking. It's curious that Artemidorus provides 2 meanings behind the Greek word for dream. According to him, Oneiros means either to excite the soul or to tell the truth. Both translations seem like excellent descriptions of the nature of dreams. Shortly after Artemidorus' time, the advent of Christianity in Europe brought a new dream interpretation tradition to the continent. According to the Old Testament, God speaks to prophets in dreams and visions. Here is what he says in Numbers 12. When there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, reveal myself to them in visions. I speak to them in dreams. But this is not true of my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak face to face, clearly and not in riddles. This is what the Lord says to the 12 tribes of Israel. According to the Bible, yet again, dreams are puzzles to be solved. They carry meaning beyond their literal content. Moreover, the role of prophets is to announce God's will, not so much to foretell the future, though this is often the direct effect. Furthermore, the symbolism and practices of the Greco-Roman world merge with their Judean counterparts, adding deeper meaning and context to what were already rich traditions. This changed the very substance of dreams and their meanings. Jesus, the Virgin Mary, angels, demons and saints became a common occurrence in people's dreams. They replaced the Greco-Roman gods, and many of them had to transform or die. Some splendid concepts like the Greek underworld of Hades and Tartarus, prison of the gods, had no equivalent in Christian mythology, and in this sense the possible dreamscapes lost much of their classical charm. The change is evident in many recorded dreams from that era. During the Middle Ages, dream interpretation further developed in both Christian and Islamic traditions. The Renaissance added a little spice to the mix by seeing dreams through the eyes of Hermeticism and alchemy. These revived practices of the classical age mixed with the contemporary Western European techniques and symbolism. Meanwhile, the Americas, Australia, Sub-Saharan Africa and East Asia had their own unique and fascinating traditions in dream interpretation. They combined principles of animism, totemism and spiritism. Animists believe that plants, animals, places and objects have their own spirit or even share their souls with humans. Animistic cultures develop their own methods to induce visions and dreams. Moreover, their dream world is usually their spirit world as well. Talking plants and beasts are a very common occurrence in the dreams of these cultures. Some of them believe the dream of the individual concerned the whole tribe, and dream sharing was a common morning ritual. The North American Iroquois tribes are notable representatives of this tradition. Totemistic cultures believed in guardian spirits or deities that served as an emblem of their clan, tribe, or tribal confederation. These cultures usually developed their own tribal beliefs, and dream interpretation traditions centered around their totem. The Australian Aboriginal tribes are good examples of such traditions. For example, a person can have kangaroo dreaming or shark dreaming based on their tribal totem or self-identification. Keep in mind that the word dreaming in this context includes various meanings such as belonging, belief, and ancestry. In fact, the Aboriginal word for the action to dream can be literally translated as to see God. This translation is another curious peek into the marvelous nature of dreams across the world. I should also mention the various folk traditions in dream interpretation. They include a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and they mostly depend on the country and its cultural history. These traditions borrow interpretations from religion, superstition, and local folklore. The supernatural is usually present, for what better place is there for fairy creatures than the shape-shifting domains of dreams? Evidently, dreaming has always been associated with the gods or some form of spiritual experience. It wasn't until the late 19th and early 20th century that scholars distanced themselves from a supernatural theory for dreams and proposed a scientific approach. Well, kind of. Most modern psychological theories use the method of psychoanalysis in interpreting dreams. It was developed by Sigmund Freud and expanded by Carl Jung. Freud believed in the purely scientific functions of dreams. To him, they were the fruit of the unconscious mind and served various biological and psychological functions. Carl Jung shared many of Freud's ideas about the unconscious mind, but not all of them. He sort of brought back gods into dream interpretation by defining archetypal images and patterns as an indelible part of the unconscious. In fact, this was the foundation of their disputes and inevitable schism. In the end, their distinct views on religion and parapsychology shaped their diverging dream interpretation theories. Despite their differences, Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung remain cornerstones in psychology, and their theories on dream interpretation are still studied. In the past 50 years, our scientific knowledge of dreaming and sleep has expanded greatly. The progress was in no small part thanks to the advancement in neurology. Naturally, scientific discoveries further expand the already rich and exciting field of dream interpretation. Nowadays, there are many books and websites which offer various interpretations of symbols. I would say the most common dream interpretation method has become the Google search. People search for the meanings of dreams online, and various websites compete to offer a fitting interpretation. Now that we've reached the present days, you can see dream interpretation has thousands of years of history and a rich variety of approaches. However, as I said in the beginning, all these traditions share three key common concepts, three principles that unite the mystical and the scientific, the primitive and the civilized, the simple and the complex. The first principle states that dream interpretation is symbolic. All traditions view dreams as a symbolic language. Dreams are indeed rarely vocal about their meaning. They communicate in images, emotions, sensations, and stories. A literal interpretation would often be bizarre or even meaningless. Where literal interpretations fail, symbolic ones bring meaning. Unfortunately, symbolic languages have a greater tendency to be open to interpretation, and the interpretation varies with the interpreter. This makes dreams more akin to poetry than to math. The second principle of dream interpretation states that there is a specific deciphering method. There is always a deciphering method. All traditions recognize some authority on the subject matter. They could rely on oral traditions, recorded history, shamans, oracles, clinical studies, archetypal meanings, and psychoanalysis. Even dreams can explain dreams. There has always been a Rosetta Stone to point the way to the meaning of the dream. By the way, my favorite deciphering method is hindsight. Unfortunately, it is also the slowest one. It can take years to figure out the meaning of a dream through hindsight. The third and final principle of dream interpretation states that dreams are meaningful messages. Who is the messenger? Is it spirits or gods? Perhaps the unconscious mind tries to speak through the many aspects of our personality. Perhaps it is the very nature of consciousness sustaining itself through time by the quantum entanglement of neural pathways. There are so many possibilities. Who is to really say why we dream when it's so exciting simply to speculate? Everyone agrees on the meaningful message part, and that's what really matters. These principles are universally shared by all dream interpretation traditions. Everything else is details, and details you will get. In future videos, you'll get to learn in detail about many of the traditions I have and haven't listed so far. You will also learn lots of practical tips to improve your dreaming experience. Some are as old as the world, and others are so fresh that seem like stuff from the future. If you like this video, please take a moment to like it, comment, or share it with your friends. This channel cannot grow without your continuous support, and I truly appreciate every little bit. I wish you the most inspiring waking and nightly dreams.